I finally did it. I got my Lydia after years of grinding, which, by the way, this comment is very, very valid and completely fair. Hello, my name is Phil, and this main account that we're playing on today is an account that I've played on for years. Mostly low spend for the most part, on and off, you know, just not spending anything. So she's a grinder. Now, while that comment was incredibly valid and very, very fair, I think what really came down to for me with Faction Wars was that I just got a little bit lazy. There were so many different factions and things. I was able to do all of the bosses on each individual different faction, but because I was able to just get them through, I never really went in to optimize some of them, and I really ended on two specific faction war areas, the Shadowkin and the Knights Revenant. So I was just a few stars short for a long time, and again, it was just laziness where I just didn't go in. And do I regret that? Abso-freaking-lutely, because now we have a Lydia. Also, it happens. There's some areas where some players are just a little bit lackadaisical on, and we could be better at them. I finally shaped up and went all in on figuring it the freak out. For me, with all the other factions, Shadowkin was a little bit of a struggle, but once I really went in and found a reviver, it helped a ton. Even just a single person, a single champ reviver, it did help a lot. The other ones I did pretty okay in. It's Knights Revenant that I kept on coming back down to because I don't have a reviving champ at all in general, and also I was just struggling with either having really high damage dealers that died really too quickly, or I had other champions that had a lot more survivability and were a lot beefier and toughier. But the problem is that when we get to the actual boss portion of it, they weren't able to whack her down fast enough before she took that turn to reset her health and swap with one of the champs. Now, of course, there are mixes. I tried different things. I went through and I tried out different damage dealers with, you know, the more survivability champs, and I'll lay out all of the different champs I have for you here in just a moment. But it definitely was a struggle trying to figure out the right synergy between the champions to be able to do enough damage and survive and not let a single person die, because in order to get those 3 stars, we have to have all the champions survive all the way until the end. Enter finally the team that finally did it for me, and I was so excited. Now's the perfect time to click the link in the description below to get a free Uugo as well as 2 more insane epics as you level up. Here's how to do it. Log out of Play and Play on PC and uninstall. Click the link in the description and register with a brand new email. Launch raid and complete the tutorial. Go to your inbox and claim your first champ. Don't miss out on your chance to get Uugo right after signing up, as well as Tagoar at level 10 and Rector Drath at level 20. Click the link right now. I actually went in during a CVC, a past CVC, and I was working on rebuilding a lot of these champions in the Faction Wars, and of course looking at tutorials, looking at what I did wrong, looking at how I can optimize it. There were even some comments on my other YouTube video when I was showcasing my Shadowkin and how I was able to 3-star that finally. There were a couple of comments where people were suggesting to use stun sets, and I felt really dumb for not thinking about that.
What?
Because the final team that I was able to work with, they had stun worked into their normal kit, so I didn't really think that maybe we should work in another stun set. So like, for instance, we have Miscreated Monster who had stun built into his kit. He's a beefy boy because he's an HP champion, but then we also have an RX who also has stun built into her kit as well. So I felt a little silly going, oh, maybe I should do a stun set on one of these champions, but this is key because it actually really did help. When I was first going into it, I was trying out, again, different combos, trying out Sentinel, trying out Thylesia, she can hit, that was really great, and then of course our beefy boy Mr. Monster. I was trying out all of these different compositions and synergies with the different champions, and again, I just kept on coming up to either a champion died and I had to restart because I didn't have a reviver to pick them back up, or 2, they just could not get the boss down fast enough to get through those turn counts before she was able to reset her health by swapping with one of the champions. Now, I'm a numbers girl, so I'm going to lay this out really plain and simply for you on how I went through and I rebuilt a lot of these champions. First and foremost was Doom Priest. Now, Doom Priest was interesting because I went in and I was like, okay, I feel like I'm using her wrong. I never really cared for Doom Priest months, even though I've heard all over the place that she's actually a pretty great champion. And then I went in, watched the freaking tutorials, right, and realized that I had built her like so freaking wrong. Now, there's a couple of different ways that you can build her, but I decided to go with a relentless set so that she can take as many turns as possible and also make her as survivable as possible, make her a little bit more beefy, tougher. The real trick that I learned with Doom Priest that really just made her freaking awesome was her passive, which is heals all allies by 7.5% of their HP and removes a random debuff from them at the start of this champion's turn. So whenever we were going up against that boss, if they ever got feared or stuck, you know, all those negative effects that make it so they can't really take their turn effectively, Doom Priest came in and had the potential to take away one of those debuffs and also kept the heals coming every time she had a chance. So I definitely wanted her speed up, and I also wanted her to take as many turns as possible so that every time she goes, she's just healing up the team and topping them off. So I completely rebuilt her, which I can tell you right now, Doom Priest is now a champion that I actually really, really like. I way underestimated her and didn't think much of her in the past. It was definitely my fault on how I built her out.
Yeah, well, maybe next time you will estimate me.
Next is another champion I want to talk about that I completely rebuilt, which is Senisha. So Senisha works really well with her sister Skull Crown. The thing is what I was going through trying to figure out which teams to build out for this faction wars. I was going on Hell Hades, looking at what other people were building. I was obviously watching YouTube videos, seeing what teams people were using. While Senisha is okay, she's not like I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but she's not like a top tier champion. Her and Skull Crown work interestingly together though. So for instance, with Skull Crown's A1, she'll attack all the enemies and she'll place an extra hit if there's more than 50% HP. So if she goes before Senisha, if they have more than 50% HP, she'll hit them twice. And then what Senisha does is she comes in after Skull Crown, and her A1 is that she'll place an extra hit if the enemies have less than 50% HP. Now the thing is, I didn't build Senisha to do crazy damage. In fact, like I said, we went a lot with survivability. She's got a decent amount of defense, decent amount of HP, but I did decide to try to get her to that crit level. Crit damage isn't insane, but she was able to go in after Skull Crown and just do like a little extra hit. It just helped a little bit with those waves to just try to get through them a little bit faster. And then I also added on a stun set for her. As I mentioned before, I have other champions that have stun worked into their kit. So I built her with a stun set, which just added a little extra possibility of just flattening out that enemy team. They take as little turns as possible and we can jump ahead and get through to that boss. I did also rework my Drang a little bit because I had built him way back when I received him. So I went in and I tried to make sure, obviously HP, because he's an HP champion, and instead of going in for damage, because I think I had him built before with 100% crit, I don't know why. I mean, obviously damage, wherever damage can come, is great, and he doesn't hit crazy hard, but I did want to make sure he was just surviving like crazy so that he can then go in with his cage ability, his little cage right here, the Death's Balance, and level out all of the champion's HP as much as possible, which was great because between him and Doom Priest, they both had really good HP and really good defense. It made it so that if any of these other champs that are damage dealers, but they're a little bit fragile, it made it so that we can reset their HP. Another reason why I decided to use Senisha is because she also has a similar ability that does this too. She will equalize the HP of all allies, which makes it so that we level it out. So as long as our survivability champions, our beefier champions, are doing okay on health, as soon as we do this move, the immortality or Doomtrang's Death's Balance, then we can level out champions. And I know that it might seem a little bit redundant to have both, like two champions that do kind of similar things, leveling out the HP and bringing them all up to the highest HP champion. But the reason why I did this is because I tried so many other different combos with different champions, and I was just sincerely struggling with trying to keep my freaking Skull Crown alive, or when I was using Thylesia before, I was having a hard time keeping her alive as well. So having those two abilities in there was kind of like a save switch, you know what I mean? Whenever things got a little scary, got a little low, I was able to pull out one of these two moves and level us out and kind of give us a bit of a reset. And then Doom Priest, of course, was coming in and just healing everyone every time she took a turn. Now, I also rebuilt my Eryx. She was, I don't even know what she was built in before, but I decided to go in and build her out in a way that'll make her a lot more sustainable. She was actually surprisingly the champion that struggled the most with this Faction Wars, and it probably came down to how I built her, because when I was building her for Faction Wars, I was really thinking in the back of my head how I really want to build her to be able to do Spider Hard 10. I don't have the right sets for it just yet, but I was trying to like set up those stat points for that, which, you know, yeah, this is all the Slayer I have. She needs a Slayer set for it. But I think I kind of muddled her up a bit by trying to think of these two different areas and how I wanted to build her for those two. And it did make it so that she wasn't like at her best, if we can put it that way. Okay, so going back to the breakdown. During the CVC, a past CVC, what I was doing is I was going in and building them out. I waited to do any speed glyphs until the end because I did want to speed tune them. I wanted to make it so that Doom Priest can go first. She can add an increased attack right away, set up the team for more damage. Eryx, I went in and she actually has that stun ability that we talked about, so I would try to stun as many as I could. Drang would come up with just his HP burn, and then I wanted to make sure that Skull Crown and Senisha, the two sisters, they went, Skull Crown had to go before Senisha. So what would happen is Doom Priest come in, increase attack, Eryx would come in, do a little bit of damage, add some stun, Drang would come in, do some damage, add an HP burn, just in case we weren't able to get through as much help as possible. By the time we got to Skull Crown, more often than not, they would have more than 50% 50% HP, which means Skullcrown got to take her 2 turns, or her A1 hit twice anyway, and then Sinisha came right after her, and again her A1 was able to hit 2 turns if they had less than 50% HP. So hopefully by the time Sinisha went, she was able to do an extra attack. Again, she doesn't hit crazy hard because I did focus more in on her survivability, but I did add in just a little bit damage wherever I could while not hurting her survivability. So I did go through, after building all these guys out, I went in and I did some speed tuning, went in with some speed enchantments and upgraded them as much as possible to make sure they went in this order, or generally in this order. It's not like a crazy speed tuned team, but I did want to keep that in mind so that I made sure I was setting up my teams in the right way. Now, these builds aren't insane. They're probably actually could have been fine-tuned a bit more, but I wanted to show my final stats for every individual champion so that you can get an idea of what was needed for this faction wars. All right, let's go in and watch this. I did have to manual it, but you'll notice right off the bat, Doom Priest went first, then our Arix, and now we're gonna have Drain go in with our burns. It's not gonna do a crazy amount, but again, it's just helpful. All right, and then of course, Miss Skullcrown will come in with our hard-hitting A2 ability, which was great because I was able to get some damage down as we continued in, and she did hit really well. As we're continuing on through this, again, it was a manual. I had to manual it, so it was like a 12 or 13 minute run, but that's okay because now it's done. We got the 3 stars. I had to make sure I manualed it so that I can go in and make sure everyone was doing the right moves at the right times. And then of course, as we get on to the second wave, I really wanted to make sure that I was setting them up for the boss so that we didn't have anything that we needed on cooldown by the time we got to the boss, right? So we have Doom Priest doing her increased attack. We've got Drang doing his HP burn. It's nice to have everything reset and all of the abilities off of cooldown by the time we got to these guys. And we had Arix, and now we have Skullcrown go in and do her first attack, which gets those 2 hits. And then of course Sinisha. I'm going with Sinisha, don't hate me.
Well, we'll frickin' see about that.
I hated these freaking Valkyries, man. They were driving me crazy. That was the biggest struggle, is trying to go in and get in there and stun them. And then we got another stun from Arix, and we continued on with this round 2 in the same fashion. We were just trying to make sure they took as few turns as possible and allowed us to go, because those freaking counterattacks, they were killer, especially with my Skullcrown, because Skullcrown, she's very, very fragile. So if I did her A1, which is an attack all, and her A2 is an attack all too, they're both AoEs. So anytime freaking Skullcrown would go in and do either A1 or A2, because that's all she can do, right? She hits all of them. They all have counterattack on them, and my Skullcrown is struggling. But thankfully with Skullcrown's kit, she when she gets to a certain like HP, she has her buff to set her up. And then of course we have Sinisha and Drang if we need to come in and reset the HP a little bit. So that passive did save her right there. She does have another passive that if she's on a team with Sinisha or Sinesha, when she's on a team with her sister, it actually makes it so that she can revive herself. She'll come back after death. So even though she was saved right there, we were able to reset her health. She also has that like lifeline, extra lifeline there, which is nice because she's our weakest champion in terms of survivability on the team. With the second wave in this faction war stage, it's really painful once you get those counterattacks up on the wave, because once they have those counterattacks, it makes everything go so much slower and takes a bit more time. But I just decided to just take my time, keep an eye on Skullcrown, reset her health whenever I was able to, and then just keep trying to stun them as much as possible. Now we have to be able to get through this boss as quickly as possible, and she'll reset her health once if you can't get through her all in one go, like really quickly. But as long as we don't let her go for 12 more times and let her cooldown reset for that health swap, then we'll be okay. We also need to get her freaking ads off there, but again, we have a lot of AoEs, so that's helpful. Did try this run multiple times. Obviously, I changed out different champions here and there, but this seemed to be the team that would probably have the most likelihood to get through all the way through the boss with 3 stars and nobody dying. It was around here, though, that I would start to lose either that Skullcrown or Arix was actually also struggling too. So again, we don't have a reviver, so we had to make sure that they were getting through okay. Now, as I'm continuing to hit her down, obviously it's looking pretty, it's looking nice, the add-ons are dead, but the boss is going to go in and do her ability where she HP exchanges or HP swaps with one of the champions, which is a pain in the butt. Okay, so she did just swap her health, which is, it's just one of those things that it's such a pain to have to start her HP all the way over again. However, we now have 12 turns to go through and get rid of her. Her add-ons are gone, and she's not hitting too hard. Like, not to the point where Doom Priest can't come in and heal everyone up and top them off, or if it really gets scary, Skullcrown has her passive that saves her, and then we have either Sinisha or Drink to come in and refresh the health. I'll finish running this through so you can see how we're able to get this finished up. You can kind of see, I was muted. You can kind of see with my mouse movements, I was getting really excited because I could see that it was happening. It was finally getting through, and it took so many runs, so many tries to get through this, but we finally finished it. And I probably could have just autoed that last bit after she refreshed her health and ability. We really just had to tag her down from then on and just keep everyone's health up, which they would have done anyway. But I was so nervous that I wasn't going to be able to finish it because I've tried, again, I ran through this how many freaking times. I was really nervous that some little silly setup would mess up somewhere, and I just wanted to secure the win. So I did have myself manual the whole way through. Manualed, it was 12 minutes and 16 seconds, and we had a pretty okay healthy team. There's just something about once you get it all set up and you rework it, and I even like speed tuned it a little bit, nothing too crazy, but just a little bit, just to add a little extra oomph to make sure it ran more smoothly. Completely rebuilt my freaking Doom Priest, realizing I had been misusing her forever. I'm so sorry, Doom Priest, you didn't deserve that. And then working with the two sisters and having those HP resets with Sinisha and Drang was super freaking helpful. And I finally got her. It just feels really good to have something click in the game and have it work out, especially if you're struggling with it for a while. There's just something that feels really great. I shouldn't have struggled this long. I probably could have figured out even before I had all the champions that I currently have for Knights Revenant.
Yeah, right.
All in all, here's our final team build for Faction Wars Knights Revenant with a 12-minute manual run. We did, again, speed tune a little bit. We were in and we rebuilt everyone in the way that I think would have worked best for them. I did go and make sure everybody had their masteries, which most of them did. I just had to top off a couple people, like Sinisha. We added a stun set to Sinisha. We added a relentless set to Doom Priest to make sure she could take as many turns as possible to keep topping off everybody's health, yada yada, so on and so forth. But we did it! I was so happy and super grateful that we were finally able to get this done. My thing now, though, is that now that I finally have my Lydia, of course, the back of my head, this anxiety brain of mine is going, you took too long, and now she's not as good as she used to be. I would love to know your thoughts on that. Is that true, or is that just my brain being silly? Is she still like a good, solid champion to have? I'm so excited to build her out and keep her going. We need to start working on our masteries, and of course, freaking books. Books are going to take forever, but we got her. Was Knights Revenant the stage or the area, the faction that was the biggest struggle for you as well, or did you find that there was actually a different area that you were having a hard time getting through with? Please comment and let me know. This is the fixer-upper account, people. This is the account that I kind of just ran on autopilot. I would just come in, do the dailies, do all the normal stuffs, and then I just got lazy. I got lazy and it happens, but now we're going in and we're going to do a full reboot of it. I will also be auditing my account. I'm going to go through and show all the different areas where it's really bad, and then we'll go through and we'll start to do some fixing up in on this fixer-upper account. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing freaking day. We got our Lydia. Keep killing it, and I'll see ya.